York's only local show is back on its new home on York's only local station.
Guess who's back? Back again.
This is the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK.
I'm back.
Now, broadcasting live from WOYK's downtown York studios inside Wellspan Park, here's Gary Sutton.
And welcome back to the Gary Sutton Show on a Tuesday morning. I am Gary Sutton. Mark McKenzie here at 7:05, coming to you from Wellspan Park, right here on Brooks Robinson Plaza in downtown York. And we got some snow coming this afternoon, and we got some snow tomorrow. Don't know how much it's going to be right now. The different forecasts.
Want to bet on it?
I don't want to bet, no.
I mean, I'm lucky. I'm on a roll.
Yeah, I know. Betting at church. A new low.
She just happened to ask you, do you want to buy a square? So I
can't believe it.
I bought 4 squares for $20. And,
sure you did. Yeah.
And they were like among the last ones. She says there's only a handful left. So
you won.
And I did. I won the fourth quarter. So on the Super Bowl. Go figure.
Yeah. Betting at church. Ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, by the way, you can text our show at 833-478-4729. Can you use private sector, and this is a great question, can you use private sector principles to change the government? Now, obviously, President Trump thinks you can, and so does Elon Musk and some of the other people who are helping them. They think you can do that. You can treat the government like a business. There are other people that vehemently don't think so. And I wonder where you stand on that. Go to Gary Sutton Show on Facebook. Just go to Facebook and you can put Gary Sutton Show down and let me know what you think. I'm really interested, and I'll play some of your responses a little bit later on today. Or if you'd like, you get a little bit more of an immediate reaction. 833-478-4729. Can you use private sector principles to cure government ills, so to speak? And maybe we asked that question this morning to James Sanders, our business blogger, who's also a lawyer, but he's with us every week to talk about different things related to business. And everybody is talking about DOGE right now, the Department of Government Efficiency. Good morning, James. How are you?
Good morning, Gary. Thanks for having me on again.
Well, of all the things that President Trump has done in the first 2+ now almost 3 weeks, DOGE is the word we hear coming up every single day. There are court cases now holding it up a little bit. It's going so fast. They're trying to get rid of government waste. People are talking about this idea of, can you use private sector principles to, hold it like a business? Or is government something different in terms of an entity? So where do you come down on all this?
Where do I come down on it is we got to try something new here. It hasn't been working. The government deficit continues to expand. We continue to spend money. We continue to find out about programs that are out there that are really arguably not in the best interest of what the U.S. citizens are electing officials to do. So where do I find out about it? Absolutely, you can use private sector initiatives to or private sector leadership and principles to make government more efficient. Are they going to operate the same way? Absolutely not. Government is intentionally, and that's the way our founders set it up, intentionally meant to work slowly. But that being said, when you start ceding powers to different branches, when the executive branch has all of these far-flung agencies like USAID and such, and you see how the funds are flowing out to international organizations or silly things that you're finding out about. That needs to be first exposed, secondly fixed, and third, how do you prevent that from going on moving forward? So I absolutely applaud this effort to establish this task force. But the other thing that I want to bring to light is this is not a new concept. This governmental efficiency commission group whatsoever else has been tried by many presidents in the past. Going all the way back to Roosevelt, Taft, and that's Teddy Roosevelt I'm referring to. Franklin Roosevelt had one, Clinton had one, Reagan had the Grace Commission, Obama had a commission of executives. So it's not, everybody's all up in arms about Trump doing this with Musk. This isn't a new concept. It's absolutely not a new concept.
When people are tired of the commission kind of thing, they see that as part of the status quo. I think those who would push this idea right now. And so commissions study stuff. They sit around forever, and they don't seem to get a whole lot done. And so what
Right.
Trump is saying on the other side, again, whether you agree or don't agree, he's saying, hey, we're going to take a pickaxe to this thing right now. And maybe that's where the biggest rub comes at the moment, where a lot of people are saying, well, you're going too fast. You're taking too big a chunk out of there. You're maybe getting some good programs that are lumped in with all the ones that you're trying to get rid of, like the USAID thing. That was started back in 1961 by President John F. Kennedy. There's some good stuff in there that we're trying to do to help, other countries. And yet somehow we've allowed some of this other stuff to get in there that has nothing to do with anything in terms of helping those countries, but seem to have something to do with pushing an agenda forward. So I think that seems to be where the rub is. The other thing is the personalities involved, Donald Trump and Elon Musk, and people don't seem to want to trust that. Talk about those two things a little bit.
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. When you've got people like Trump and Musk that are going through this initiative, you clearly, they're polarizing figures, and they're moving quickly, and arguably they're a step, if not several steps ahead of the folks on the other side, the bureaucrat class, if you want to, for lack of a better term. And I would say that there's mistrust there, and they're screaming. But when you see them screaming about how horrible things are, that's telling me that there's something there. They're disrupting the system. But remember, that's how they excelled in the private sector. They disrupted the system. Elon Musk buying X. He's disrupting that private business sector, the communication methodology. With SpaceX, he did the same thing. And if you actually look at what he did with those organizations, he did a lot of that through efficiency efforts. So Musk is actually, probably one of the better people in the private sector to go look at what's going on with the government, because he was disrupting some of the quote-unquote old line sector organizations, X with media outlets and correspondence. SpaceX with space exploration. He's disrupting things. Trump obviously disrupts, and Trump obviously, his personality just is polarizing in general. But I do think that Musk in particular is the right person to come and look at this, because he's going to look at it methodically, and he's going to sit there and he's going to drive to figure out how to make things more efficient. And if that involves cutting organizations, then so be it.
When you look at this whole effort right now, this whole Doge effort, the one question that comes up is, are you going too far, too fast? In other words, President Trump is obviously pushing the outer limits of what executive authority is here. And a lot of people are saying, whoa, this is illegal. Well, I don't know if it's illegal, but the bottom line is they're going to test whether it's illegal by some of the stoppages in the courts right now, where the courts are coming out and saying, you can't go that fast. Let's take a look. Let's pause. Let's get a breath. It seems like that's where the courts are right now. And I know many on the right are saying, the courts are just trying to disrupt this. They're all liberal. I don't know if that's the case. It seems to me that one of the concerns that people have, and I would be one of those as kind of a historian, that the checks and balances need to be kept somewhere in balance at the moment, because we have separation of powers. I do think the Congress has generally been bereft over the years on doing their responsibility, which then has left it open for the executive to do that, even though that's not necessarily provided for in the Constitution, nor is it necessarily the right thing to do. But by the same token, we need to make sure that we don't lose that balance that three branches of government provide, right?
I in fact think this effort is exposing and bringing to light the rebalancing of the three branches of government. It's making the judicial branch and the legislative branch actually go do their job. What Trump's doing is, I'm taking all of these powers that you've given to the executive branch. Because look at the organizations that he's targeting. He's targeting executive-level organizations.
Right.
Between USAID, between Department of Education. These are all things that are under the executive branch's control. He's targeting them, and he's slashing the budgets and or exposing the inefficiencies. What that's triggering is the judicial branch to come look at it, and then ultimately the legislative branch to come out and say, oh, wait a minute, maybe we need to actually plug in here and do our job.
That's
right?
a great point. No, that's a really good point. I like that. I think the idea here is that, all right, nobody else has done anything here for a long time. This stuff's been sitting around there getting worse and worse. You've all talked it to death, but you haven't really done anything about it. I'm going to come in here and put a pickaxe to it, and my job is to enforce the laws and to enforce the various directives of my organization, which is the executive branch. So I'm doing it. So I can see that point of view. That's really an interesting take.
I mean, I can't. I don't have a better explanation for it because everybody gets up in arms. Oh, you're appointing the special government employee, and how dare you give him access to all these records and organizations? Well, I will tell you that it's been going on with every single presidential administration, and that's Republican and Democrat. As they've continued to scope creep, whatever you want to call it, the executive branch has gotten to be a bigger player over what has traditionally been legislative. The legislative branch and or the judicial branch's authority. So now this is, again, I look at it as a rebalancing, and Trump is, and essentially what Trump's saying is, well, if you don't like it, use your laws in place to fix it, because that's all I'm doing right here.
It was interesting the other day. I got into a debate with a friend of mine, and we were talking about this, and he said, well, the federal government is not anything like private sector. And I said, how so? He said, well, in the private sector, you just make a profit, and that's all you worry about. In the federal government, they're providing services. I said, wait a second. I said, let's come back here a little bit. And this is one of the, I think, the false arguments you get into sometimes. I said, before you make a profit, what do you have to do? I said, you have to provide a great good or service that people want to buy or use. I said, Isn't that what you have to do in the private sector? And when you do that, then you make a profit. But in doing so, you have to have people who are working for you. They got to be relatively happy. You have to have decent wages, hours, working conditions. You have to do all that in order to make that good profit or that service. In the federal government, they're providing services. And I said, and if they do it the right way, I said, and the profit is provided when people have more working capital in their pockets as free and independent citizens, and then they can go about the organic job of trading and going back and forth in the economy, as opposed to the contrivances that the federal government kind of throws in there sometimes to create certain winners and losers in the economy. I said they're very similar in a lot of ways there, although I will agree with you that there are other parts of it that are a little bit different. But at the very base of it, I think both of them have a very similar kind of thing. And why can't you ask for efficiency and accountability? Final thoughts, James?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And I've had this conversation with a mutual friend of ours, Mr. Joel Sears, about how we get pushback, how government budgets they don't operate the same as private sector, and you can't compare the two. And Joel is famous for saying to me, James, it's because government has to operate even better than the private sector.
Great statement.
And I said, you know what, you're 100% right, and that has stuck with me for many years, and that's my pushback always whenever somebody brings up that topic. So
James, great discussion.
Time will tell.
Yeah, great discussion this morning. We're going to be talking about this, I think, for a long time, and seeing what the meandering river looks like here with the push by Trump and then the holdback by maybe the judicial branch, and what the Congress does in terms of jumping into this conversation as well. Should be a fascinating time as we see a rebalancing maybe of where our checks and balances go here in our country. Thanks so much for joining us this morning, James. Really appreciate the conversation.
Thanks, Gary. Have a great week.
Take care. You too. James Sanders here on WOYK. When we come back, some news you just might have missed. We've got some of that, and Mark's got some news stories coming up too. All here on the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK, where it is 7:18.